Please welcome Hariz Zambarloukos BSC GSC and Sir Kenneth Branagh. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, everybody, on a night like this, at a time like this. Thank you.
So, what a wonderful film.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful love letter to a time and place and the people in that time and place. You don't have to be of the generation who lived in that time to appreciate the period detail in there, but I mean, for me personally, it smelt of that time. Everything from the Thunderbirds to all the way to the family pack of biological Omo. It was great. So Ken, can I just start with you? I'm assuming that this film has been a long time coming for you. When did the screenplay sort of come to fruition, and when did you first share it with Hariz?
A friend of mine said, how long did it take you to write the script? And I said, practically speaking, about 10 weeks. And he said, 10 weeks and 50 years. And that's definitely how long it took. I wanted to write something about this place and my relationship to it for a long time. But in the end, I suppose, being at the beginning of lockdown and hearing no aeroplanes and no cars going by, I felt like I was staring into the silence, and the silence took me right back to this other lockdown, which is the one in 1969 where the street was suddenly locked down, and where the feeling of uncertainty and being unsettled, something that human beings aren't good with, our futures being this uncertain, seemed to have a lot of resonance. So I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. I wrote it, I showed it to my brother and sister. It was important to me that they were happy that it be made, and then I decided to see if we could get it made, and the first one to show it to was my distinguished colleague here.
We had talked about a film over lockdown. Ken and I would speak every couple of weeks just to see how we were. Ken was usually walking the dog when we talked, and he revealed nothing about what he was writing. I kind of had to wait to take it firsthand with no expectations, and I was just so I was overwhelmed when I read it. It's a truly beautifully written script, and it jumped out at you, and I knew we were going to make something special.
Well, it was, because it takes a subject that we've perhaps been used to seeing, but comes from a very deeply personal and so quite unique.
Well, one of the reasons it came out in the end is that because I didn't want to write anything that was just a sort of would-be documentary account of my background, I came to it feeling that I understood that more parts about the story were more available to more people than I had previously understood. If I'd wanted it was just a personal therapy thing, I'd have written a notebook and put it under the bed, as it were. But you were one of the first people to talk about actually how your experience in Cyprus also had something to bring to bear on it.
Yes, and I would say that I think one of the things we've noticed with Ken when this goes out is people of very different backgrounds and from different places all seem to find something personal about it. But I think most Cypriots my age have had kind of an experience of being just your world being shaken. Cyprus was invaded in 1974, and there's a memory there, and there was a displacement of people. It caused a diaspora. My father's in construction too. We all fled to Dubai after the invasion. So I certainly felt things in common. But I think the most unique thing that was different for me in prepping this is that it was so personal to Ken, and it was very much like if a friend opens up about their past and what has shaped them, that takes a certain amount of courage and a certain openness, and it almost makes you feel comfortable and assured to share something about your past and what has shaped you. And that's not usually how you make a film. By sharing stories and your past, it takes on a very different tone. And I think for me, it felt like a responsibility to do the absolute best and contribute as much and as truthfully as possible.
Sure. And that must have come out of the long collaboration that you two have had. I mean, this is your 8th film together, so that probably helped oil that kind of conversation. So when the creative conversation started about the film, did that sort of bubble up quite quickly? I mean, for instance, the choice for the film to be in black and white, was that a sort of an instant, or did that develop through?
I think we, as maybe many people here have had a chance to work in the time of COVID, there was very little time. We were one of the first ones back after the first lockdown, so there was almost a kind of, there was an urgency and a sort of invitation to follow your first instincts. I wanted to try and not second guess myself. So you could say black and white was an uninformed hunch. It was just a feeling, and you didn't really analyze other than this feels right. I could rationalize it. Makes it feel forensic, makes it seem poetic, makes it seem gritty and authentic, puts you in the past and the present at the same moment. I love black and white movies, so all of those things. But it was just a gut instinct that, living in a place that rained a lot, that was very much in monochrome into my 9-year-old eyes, that sat really strongly against my experience of going to big rooms like this, seeing images that size. And late 60s family films seemed to be all saturated Technicolor, widescreen. Of course, I was tiny, so it just felt like you were going to the movie palace. It was a lot more attractive than the churches we were otherwise going to. And it was packed with colour that literally, in that late 60s way, kind of blew my mind. I'll just give you one little insight, by the way, into collaboration over 8 years, is that it means that when you go on a scout to Belfast, you can say to Hariz and Jim Clay and Celia Duvall, do you mind if I've got some change, let's just get the city bikes out. We've got to have a small scout anyway, we can't have too many people in the van, there's only 4 of us, can we just cycle round every spot in the city? And it was a pretty funny sight, actually, men of a certain age and some beautiful ladies of a certain age as well, toddling around Belfast on, they're not ever so good, the city bikes there, I've got to say. Well, we weren't cycling them very well, is perhaps the best way to put it. But it was a great way to do it, because in a way I was like a kid in a sweet shop, saying, oh, and then I went there, and then over here, no, come here, you can put a camera here, and oh, look, that's where the school was, oh, that's been knocked down and everything, and and it was sort of real. There was no big, it wasn't like we were stopping for the catering, or it was just, the sort of biggest adventure of the afternoon was finding a spot to return the bikes, because of course by the end of it we got ourselves lost. But that's what happened. That's what this particular DP, after 8 pictures and 15 years, is ready to do. So good on him.
Yes, and then we got very competitive about it too. I think we raced each other although none of us knew where we were going.
Yes, bound to happen. But I mean, the thing you're saying about the screen, I mean, that comes out of it. The way that Bud sort of Hollywoodizes his experience, and that's where that wonderful balance of sort of magical realism, for want of a better phrase, and the real gritty realism of his experience. That works.
We also we felt as though if you were looking at the film, we're definitely taking the 9-year-old's perspective, both physically, often in terms of with the height of the camera, but also in terms of the, as you say, slightly heightened quality. So, Irish wakes, in my experience, are incredibly intense and festive. We took our opportunity with the everlasting love sequence to, as it were, take that to a certain kind of max that felt legitimized, because it was that 9-year-old needing and wanting, and all of those characters needing and wanting that release. Yes. And we released ourselves a bit as filmmakers at that point as well.
Yeah, I think the audience feels that at that point. There's something really magical about that. I have to ask this. How big a decision, if it was at all, to put the reflection of A Christmas Carol into Judi Dench's glasses in colour? Was that just a sort of, yeah, it's got to happen?
I would say that is Ken in the post-production, Una and Matt Glenn. They just wanted to add a special touch, and they added that afterwards. While we were shooting, we experimented a little bit with maybe the rays from the projector being in colour within the black and white when you were looking back at the audience, just to find a way of introducing a teeny bit of colour within our audience, our characters that were audience. And Joe Barker, our colorist, the IT on set, did some kind of little mats for us to have a look. So we had a look early on at color beams of light from the projector, and it didn't seem right. But I think Ken's decision to do it in the glasses was just superb. When I saw that, I was like very, very happy, because I knew I was going to get the credit for it.
It was a lovely touch. It was a really lovely touch. I mean, there's a real concentration on faces in this film, which I love. You sort of linger on faces, especially on Bud, of course. I mean, what a find Jude Hill is. But I mean, was that found in the editing, or when you were shooting? You just, because there's moments when you just linger on his face and the exchanges happen off camera, and you're just there resting on his face.
I had this feeling that I don't know how really it was just for me, but as I was writing, I felt like I was writing a Western, and in my mind I was writing an epic Western. But of course, I was not going to be in Monument Valley. If I was lucky, I was going to be either on the streets in Belfast, or if we had the chance, we could build something that we could control more. And so for me, in the way that I experienced in watching Westerns, the epic dimension became extreme close-ups. For me, that Judi Dench's face at the end, in black and white particularly, when you see she remains a beautiful, incandescently beautiful woman, but you do see life writ there as well, and you see it in a different way in black and white. By the same token, the shot you mentioned, when we early doors essentially declare we're looking at this film and the experience of this film through this boy's eyes, you see youth, clean, you see this moment that is part of what the film's about and that some people respond to, which is their own experience of the before moment, when innocence ended, whatever that means, and whatever form of adulthood came up. So there's a shot at the table where Jude Hill is so present. He's so fully behind those eyes and that look and that concentration, and there he is with all of that shiny, unlined, non-grandparental face, and so they, in black and white, they become, to me anyway, sort of, if you hold them long enough, they have this sort of epic resonance, because they start to feel sort of architectural as well, especially if they're of a certain size. So for me, the humanity in those sort of, in a way, was part of your human production value.
Sure. Great. And did the aspect ratio that you chose sort of reflect that desire to get into the face as well?
Yes, I think we chose to do things slightly differently from what we were used to. So it was our first digital film, our first 1:8:5 ratio film. And we were definitely interested in portraiture in this. This was a film about the human condition, and the landscape of the human condition is the human face. So how you photograph it was important. So there's something about photojournalism and like Life magazine where you you compose things in a very simple way, in a very natural way, with natural lighting, but that you apply a level of contrast or a very, very thoughtful approach to your grade of an image that then gives it a much glossier look. So again, it was a contradiction of two different things: a very kind of glossy approach to the grade, and a very simple natural approach to the lighting. It was all available light, and kind of either locations that we used or sets that we built that were composite sets inside and out that allowed us to be both do kind of a lot of foreground and background kind of blocking for Ken and layer a shot so that there would be very minimal impact from us photographically in a way. You know, we would always find a way that we wouldn't have to pan or tilt, that it would be a locked off shot. That meant really thinking about our frame and choosing the lens and the distance and the really quite measured and allow things to just happen. And
there's a wonderful use of wide angle in the interiors in the house. It's really, and that was a real house, or the interior, the home set, right? And the street.
Well, and the street as well. But whenever we could get with the same idea that Hariz is talking about, we'd shared with the actors that we would often do things in one. We would not rehearse because we wanted to keep the freshness of the 10-year-old boy and not sort of overdo him. But a shot is an example of it that I particularly like. Is a long lens. I guess it's maybe I can't remember whether it was a 300 mm or it was much longer than that. Maybe it was 600. I don't know. But we're in the sort of netball court. Netball's being played foreground. Then we have a wire fence, then we have action, people walking dogs, then we have the main scene is two sisters talking on a bench, then behind them we have other action, then behind them we have a field with people picnicking, and right at the back high we have a very lively wind-swept tree final layer of image, and there's like 7 or 8 layers of image all happening, and we're only ever going to use that shot, you know, and so it's a big commitment to something that in that case, the depth of that helped sell the reality of the street and the built sets, because we were clearly not cheating then.
Yeah, that was very effective. And you shot on the Alexa LF, is that right, Hariz? Yeah.
Yes, we shot a Mini LF with System 65 Panavision lenses and Sphero lenses. They're the same lenses we've used on our 65mm film projects. Literally down to the serial numbers, but I think there's something special about kind of this medium format sensor that the LF has, that the DXL2 has. I think there's something magical about it. I think digital has kind of come into its own with that sensor size. It's weird. It's just as all things, it's a ratio, you know, and it happens to work very well. And it seemed to have something that, again, goes back to early portraiture, like, you know, we both love, I think, Dorothea Lange portraits, and she often kind of photographed the human condition and conflict, and she had a way of setting up a camera on a tripod with a large format camera and talking to the subjects and just clicking at that decisive moment that captured the kind of essence of that person. So I think that kind of combination of large format lenses and medium format sensor kind of seemed to evoke as best as we could, and in our world, that type of photography.
And any filtration?
No filtration. No. And no filtration and almost no. I mean, the odd ND to take. We kind of chose an f-stop, and we did some tests with some very extreme kind of lack of depth of field with Ken, and we thought that might be something interesting. But after 1 minute, I think, of looking at the tests, we decided that we're going to pick a kind of a decent kind of T4 to 5.6 medium range f-stop and stick to it. So we ND'd when we had to, and that was really how we created our look.
And then we made other sort of rules that COVID and lack of time encouraged us to make, that also felt that they added up to the makings of a sort of style or a choice or a preference. So I said we can't afford, haven't got the time, in any sense for a crane. We'll never jib up and down here, or may well, to tell a lie, we'll jib, but that'll have to be, it's got to be something we can knock up. So the ladder pod was the sole piece of equipment that got us high, which got us high regularly, but kept us very flexible and allowed us to, often, lock off frames in ways that we liked it, because we would spend a lot of time getting the frame absolutely right, and then inside it we were looking for a happening. We were looking for the 10-year-old to surprise us. We were looking for improvisation. We were looking for that locked off position or that frame not to dictate a theatrical or still or stilted or still life experience, but in fact for the life to dance inside that. But that frame would have been considered for all the ways in which it helped support the sort of feeling in that scene. So it was, as Hariz was saying, a sort of series of sort of contradictions. You were always looking for spontaneity, but actually there was a great deal of consideration and precision about how you tried to capture, the image in the frame.
Yes, that balance of the stylized and the waiting for something special to happen within it. Yes. Let's go out to the audience, see if there are any questions here. Anyone would like to ask something? Yes, thank you.
Not a question, more of an acknowledgement. Watching it as an immigrant, I have nothing to do with Ireland, but watching it, it felt very emotional, and I want to thank you. Really, it was very powerful.
Thank you. That, in case you didn't hear, that was from an audience member here talking about the experience of being an immigrant and although not from Ireland, it being powerful. And we've been very touched, and thank you very much for sharing that, by the way in which that whatever is open from this story into other people's stories has been a very open channel that we've been a very, very rewarding to feel as though it's reached out. Yeah,
I'm sure. That's great. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Yes, thank you.
Hi, sorry, I'm not going to ask a question. I'm from Belfast, and it brought back many, many memories for me. And in fact, I worked with you, Kenneth, on the Billy trilogy all those years back.
Okay.
But it's just to say, an amazing film, brought a huge amount of memories back for me. Beautifully shot. And the cast was superb, and Young Jamie's his name for the future. Yeah. So you'll have to excuse me, I've got to catch a train to Oxford, but I just wanted to say it was amazing.
Thank you very much. You're backlit figure, looking very dramatic there, but thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yes, a question over here. Thank you. Sir. Yes.
Question to Ken. Did you ever consider an epilogue of them in the sunlit uplands of England?
There was one version of the film where there was an older version of Buddy. I'll give you 3 guesses who was playing that. And that actor made an appearance. And although not an epilogue, as you suggest, but a return to Belfast was something that we shot. And I think actually you'll be able to see the, if you care to look at the home entertainment version, that we've got some deleted scenes there. But that side of things certainly didn't in the end feel as though they belonged. And then in terms of an epilogue, not thus far. No, not thus far. I think this film just became the thing, as if you're lucky, happens. An evolution occurs, and there's sort of 3 films at least, aren't they? There's the film you plan, the film you shoot, and then the film you edit, and you hope they evolve one to the other into something organic that represents where the original instinct came from. So that's what we were lucky to sort of end up with this version.
I mean, given the wealth of archive that would have been available, I mean, there was a different version of it, of that story to tell. But I mean, I thought the archive moments you chose, I think the Harold Wilson clip is particularly effective. I mean, the balance is just right there. You just get enough of the background.
Once again, it was from a position of saying, well, what will the boy have heard? And another moment
Yeah.
that I think was typical was later in the picture where the kid in the foreground is playing with his Matchbox toy, and in the background, or just behind him, the television is talking about how milk bottles are being used as petrol bombs. So kids being asked to collect milk bottles, as it were, to get a kind of deposit back, are effectively being tricked into being part of the war effort, as it were. And that kind of thing people were half hearing while they were doing what you might expect a lucky 10-year-old who's got a Matchbox car to play with to do. One of the side effects of COVID was that with myself over here and Una, our editor in Dublin, I had an Avid at home, and one of the things it was packed with was hundreds of hours of news archive, TV footage and radio commentary. And one of the side effects of COVID was to have enough time for me to go through that in draft after draft after draft after draft of what could sort of season itself in that might have half caught a kid's ear.
Yeah. Oh, very good, very good. Any other questions? Yes. Nigel.
Yeah, as a cameraman in, sorry, I've got a microphone. As a cameraman in Belfast doing the troubles for Panorama, I congratulate you both on the amazing film, which is so evocative of the life that I imagined was the other side of the doors. And I think it's just incredible. Congratulations. Hariz, I was going to ask you one question, and that is, it brought me back to the days of black and white filming and filters. I was trying to work out during the film the filters you might have used. Did you have a lot of problems with that, or how did you manage?
I'll ask Hariz to talk about that, but I would say well done. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And as I was just saying to Mike, and I'm not just saying it because you're sitting there, but my admiration for anybody who was capturing pictures of that time amid all of that chaos. Good on you, sir. You know, because it's a hell of a thing, and it's a hell of a record. However, you know, terrifying of the time. Filters, Hariz.
Thanks, Nigel. Well, actually, we didn't use any filters except NDs, although we did get great inspiration from one of your fellow Welshman photographers, Philip Griffith-Jones, who's a magnificent photographer. I think those were some of some of the images that we referenced that really sang to us, and his photography of the time and of actually Wales. There was there's one image that he had that we kind of referenced for the barricade, which is, I don't know if you know it, Nigel. It's some kids on a broken down piano in an empty field. That kind of just that you take something everyday, ordinary, and something that creates joy, and now it's lost, and that kind of thing of joy and sorrow was something we used in the film, but no filters.
One more question here, I think.
Hi, really nice film. Thank you so much for showing it tonight. Just wanted to know how long you had to prep and how long you had to shoot, maybe how long you had in post as well, along with the grade.
I guess it was probably, the shooting period was probably 7 weeks.
I think it was
6. Hariz is saying 6. But we always try and blur, like we never start on a Monday. We always start the previous Thursday afternoon, and we call it tests. And I have to look everybody in the eye and say, I don't think it's going to be in the movie. We're just trying. It'll just get us all warmed up, and it'll make us not feel nervous on Monday morning. But often it is in the movie. And then we I guess we were done. It couldn't have been much more time than that to prep. Maybe 8 weeks to prep. First thing we did was run to Belfast. Then realised we couldn't manage all the COVID of it all and the set there. Then we couldn't get any set space because everything had been paralysed, and so we found Farnborough Exhibition Centre, which effectively provided us with a pop-up studio. Their car business was gone, but you could park everything there. We had hard standing on which we could build the street. We were actually shooting a dialogue movie at the end of the runway next to the Farnborough aerodrome, but it's a private airport and fewer planes in the sky because of COVID. And then we found a school where we did everything else, and where in both cases we could build the whole COVID infrastructure. And I feel like most of the prep time was trying to get our heads around that. We've got some of our producers here tonight who will give you the blow-by-blow account of how difficult that was. Then once we finished, really the dominoes fell and we were into the next lockdown almost immediately. And then I guess we had probably 9-10 months, I suppose, to finish the movie in that very separate way.
Thank you. Very sadly, we've run out of time. I could just talk more and more, on and on about this film. Really, congratulations both, and congratulations on 7 Golden Globe nominations, I believe.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant film.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Kenneth Branagh, Hariz Zambarloukos. Thank you.